Hello all, my name is Lauren Cruz and I will be presenting NBOM, also known as Smiles, Solaris, Symbi, or legal LSD. NBOM is a synthetic hallucinogen similar to LSD and ecstasy. The drug classification by the USDA is that it is a Schedule 1 drug. So a little history about NBOM. It was first synthesized in the early 2000s by Ralph Heim when studying serotonin receptors and its role in normal cognition. During the 2010s, NBOM and derivatives were noted to be sold through online illicit drug markets and at places of use such as festivals of electronic dance music, parties, and nightclubs. NBOM is a synthetic hallucinogen that causes euphoria. And here, the figure on the left is the chemical structure of NBOM. NBOM is a nitrogen benzyl substituted phenethylamine derivative, and it is noted that the addition of the nitrogen methyl oxybenzyl group, which makes it unique, that addition significantly increases the compound's affinity for the serotonin receptor. It was noted that due to its increased affinity and its potency, when it causes euphoria, it can be easily abused as the tolerance raises, and one must use more of the drug to cause the initial effects it once caused. Again, NBOM is recognized internationally through the World Health Organization and is listed under net international control. In the UK, it is listed as a Class A substance under the Misuse of Drugs Act. And again, in the US, it is scheduled as a Schedule 1 drug or classified as a Schedule 1 drug. All right, so what does it look like? So there are several different routes of administrations of NBOM. It can be offered as a powder, liquid, laced on edible items, or soaked in blotting paper. Here in figure 2 on the left, it is the blotting paper, and figure 3 is the powder. So the blotting paper is normally placed under the tongue or held in the cheeks where it is absorbed through the lining of the mouth. Powder can be sniffed and inhaled and absorbed through the lining of the nose. And lastly, the liquid solution is normally offered as a spray and can be absorbed through the mouth. It was noted in the literature that the NBOM does not work if swallowed, which makes sense that why the routes of administration in the mouth are normally kept there and held under the tongue. It was noted that the bioavailability is greater with intranasal administration compared to in the mouth or sublingual routes. It was noted that due to the varying routes of administration, doses and concentrations often varied with the kind of products that were used. And these variations in dosings and application increase the likelihood of toxicity and fatal overdoses. I thought it was interesting that many users believed that the blotting paper was the safest method of ingestion. However, due to its small size and manufacturer variability, lack of production standards, there is significant variations in the concentrations in these little tiny papers. And that was actually a significant report of the fatal overdoses and compared to the other routes of administration. So a little bit about the mechanism of action. So as in a hallucinogen, the mechanism can also be compared to LSD. So NBOM is a potent serotonin receptor agonist, and due to its potency, it quickly crosses the blood-brain barrier, causing fast effects. Following, it activates the serotonergic and adrenergic pathways. Again, it works as an agonist for serotonin release. And during this agonist work, NBOM tricks the serotonergic receptors to accept NBOM over serotonin, causing an increased release of serotonin in the prefrontal cortex. Figure 4 here on the left is an image about how the serotonin and glutamate receptors are activated through a hallucinogen like NBOM. It was also noted in the literature that N-bomb is a full agonist of serotonin receptors, while classic psychedelics are only considered a partial agonist. Due to its full agonist characteristic on serotonin receptors, it has increased effects on complex behavior and thought processes, such as working memory, and can also induce affective disorders such as schizophrenia and depression. It was also noted that the work of serotonin activation, it will also activate the NMDA receptors to induce the release of glutamate in the prefrontal cortex. It was also noted in the literature to increase the extracellular dopamine in the frontal cortex. So some of the effects that in the brain that the activation of these of serotonin, glutamate, and dopamine, it affects the frontal cortex, hypothalamus, limbic regions, and cerebellum. So it's noted in the literature that the hallucinations are induced by the activation of glutamate, serotonin, and dopamine. When all of these neurotransmitters are activated, that's just what induces the hallucinations, which I thought was super interesting. It was also noted that after 15 minutes of administration, the nucleus accumbens, or the center of administration, the center for addiction and striatum were affected, which is very quickly, only 15 minutes after administration. So, some clinical manifestations. So what does it look like? Like what are the effects? N-bomb can induce psychological and somatic effects, causing euphoria and auditory and visual hallucinations that last up to 6 to 10 hours, which is a long time, very, very long time. Other side effects can include agitation, aggressiveness, paranoid behavior, tachycardia or increased heart rate, hyperthermia, which is inability to control one's body heat, especially like body heat, and most importantly, serotonin-like syndrome, which is a potentially fatal complication resulting from the overstimulation of serotonin receptors in the body, causing changes in mental status, or seizure-like activity, or autonomic hyperactivity. So very fatal complications. The body system that I chose is the endocrine system, and this system is in charge of the feedback loops of hormones in the circulatory system that regulates metabolism, homeostasis, growth and development, and also sleep-wake cycle and mood. So here, figure 7 on the left is the organs that also contribute to the endocrine system function. And as N-bomb is a recently new synthesized hallucinogen, there has not been many articles about its direct effects on the endocrine system. Yeah. So some effects on the endocrine system that I was able to receive from the articles, where it can induce fatigue, lowered metabolism, generalized weakness, sweats, and generalized feeling of discomfort. So here, figure 8 is a cartoon showing that's experiencing cathargy or the purging of emotions, and I thought that this would be a display of how one might feel when under the effects of a hallucinogen, and also experiencing side effects that were not granted. So, yes. Okay. And other risks on the body systems is that it can cause metabolic acidosis, or when there's too much acid in one's body fluid, loss of appetite, renal failure, risk for infertility. In rats, it caused muscle twitching and rhabdomyolysis, which is the damaged skeletal muscle that breaks down and is released into the blood system. Most importantly, I think that the effects are more psychological, which include the different kinds of hallucinations and the different mood effects that it causes. So I wanted to include a case report on the recreational ingestion of NBOM. So the report is that a 16-year-old patient presents in the emergency department with recent neurological changes and abnormal MRI. The patient visited his primary care provider 2.5 weeks ago and reported a left-sided weakness and diagnosed with conversion disorder, or the sensory and physical problems without an underlying neurological disorder. Over the next 2 weeks, the left-sided weakness worsened, causing a face droop, altered gait, or the way that they walk, and seizure-like activity. So this patient conducted many different MRIs and was being treated for its weakness, for the left-sided weakness, for about 2 months in the hospital. However, the patient had to continue receiving treatment outpatient for 3 months with neurology, psychiatry, rehabilitation, and occupational therapy, as long-lasting effects of the left-sided weakness and tremor of his upper extremities, so that could be arms, hands, that persisted. And here, figure 10 on the left is the MRI that was shown. And it was noted that due to the recreational ingestion, not only did it cause these long-lasting physical effects, it actually induced toxic leukoencephalopathy in the brain. So it actually caused structure alterations by altering the cerebral white matter and damage and the myelin in the brain was damaged. So again, it not only caused physical long-lasting effects, but also mentally and in the brain structure. So in conclusion, NBOM is a very potent synthetic hallucinogen that acts on the serotonin receptors. And I would not recommend for its use, as there are many different affected body systems and domino effect of side effects that could occur. And due to its varying dosaging and concentrations, it's very hard to know which kind of product is safe for use and which is not. So yes, I wouldn't recommend it. Here are my references, and thank you so much. Stop sharing and recording.